What's up, guys? We're gonna look at leatherworking in Dragonflight, what the good recipes are looking like, and my thoughts on the profession today. So anyone who watched my last video on blacksmithing, there's so many changes in Dragonflight. I rambled on for way too long. We're gonna try to keep it shorter this time. So we're gonna assume some knowledge about professions in Dragonflight. We won't be talking about like the basics of how profession skill works, how recipe difficulty works. If you're unfamiliar, then check out some of my previous videos. I'll make sure they're linked in the description. So the first thing we'll look at is the recipe types. What can you craft with leatherworking? Well, you can craft leather armor, mail armor. This is the main stuff. You can craft some profession equipment. There's some weapons, not many. There's one rare crossbow, so not so much. And then there's the elemental, bestial, and decayed patterns, which are various pre-embellished armor, similar to what blacksmithing has. So this is armor and weapons with extra strong effects. Whether PvP or PvE or whatever. Then there are some intermediate materials. You need some scales and stuff that you need to craft. There's a couple of optional reagents you can put on weapons and armor. There's the insight reagent to increase the quality. Some armor kits. This is a form of an enchantment for leg armors, essentially. Similar to what we have in Classic. These are going to sell, but they're stackable, so not so much. Then you have drums and toys. It's not going to be a surprise to many of you, I hope not, that where I think the gold profit here is leather armor, mail armor, maybe a little bit profession equipment, and all of these like elemental, bestial, decayed patterns. Armor, gear, that's where the money is looking to be, because then you don't have to compete with your entire region, because they only stack in one, so you're only competing against your own realm, essentially. These elemental, bestial, and decayed patterns are really interesting. They have various relatively strong effects, or at least seemingly strong effects. Of course, they add the embellished keyword, and you can only have 2 embellished armors. You can also embellish the base armor by adding the optional reagents. Yeah, some of these are very strong, like this one. You can get 200 extra versatility proc for 10 seconds for you and your 4 closest allies. Obviously strong. Is it stronger than the other procs? I don't know. This one, you need 2 pieces from this set. But if you do that, then you get have a chance to throw a magic snowball on your target, which is going to do damage or healing. So this is potential for casters. Effects are looking strong, but for all of these, it's going to turn out we're going to have to wait for simulations and stuff like that. And there's probably going to be one effect that's just way stronger than all the others, and everyone's going to want that. So that might be one of these pre-embellished ones, or it might turn out that something like the generic potion duration increase is the strongest one, or maybe it's thick spikes, or one of the others. One of them is going to be the strongest, and that's what everyone's going to want, essentially. Now, another important thing is how you're going to spend your specializations, or rather how you get to the specific breakpoint to craft these items with the right recipe difficulty and the right skill. So you get skill from profession skill, you get skill from your profession equipment, you get skill from your specialization points, and you get skill from using max quality reagents. That's the methods you can do to get skill. You can also add the finishing reagent. All that's going to help increase your skill and get you, if you match the recipe difficulty, then you craft at max quality. Now, the breakpoints that we care about, there's a lot of them. There's crafting the basic item at quality 5 for 10 extra item level. Then you might want to add an embellishment and craft at quality 5, which is going to increase the difficulty by 25. Then you can infuse them. I'm only checking the infusion for the mythic item level, the concentrated primal infusion. That's another 50. And then the elemental and the decayed armors have a different base difficulty. They have a higher one because they're already embellished and already very strong. They have the same item level though, so if you want to add the concentrated primal infusion for even more, then that's going to make it even higher. But the short of it is that you can get quality 5 basic items. That's going to require about 40 knowledge. If you then want to embellish it and always craft at quality 5, that's going to be 65 knowledge. You're going to need 90 knowledge to get a quality 5 item and get it to be infused for extra item level, for mythic quality item level. If you don't want to have it infused and embellished, that's going to be 105. If you also want to pick the secondary stats specifically, then that's going to be another 15 on top of that, so 120 knowledge. If you want to craft a quality 5 basic elemental recipe with nothing extra, that's going to require about 150 knowledge. That's a huge amount of knowledge, but some of these have very, very high recipe difficulty. I actually did check all of them. That's for the 415 ones. And if you then want to add a power infusion on top of that, a concentrated primal infusion, you actually can't get there. They require 465 recipe difficulty. The highest I was able to get, that would require 243 points from knowledge. And the highest I can get for maxing out, for my math, is 225. So you'd need 170 knowledge for that, and you'd still rely on inspiration for actually getting the quality 5 on those, which means you'd have to probably recraft them a couple of times. But that's it. That's it for the breakpoints. Generally speaking, as with blacksmithing, you get a lot of bonus skill from focusing on the end nodes. So you can see here that these like nodes along the way, they give you a total of 20 extra skill. So putting the 20 points here is going to get you 40 points of skill for shoulder pads, and it's also going to give you the ability to add the illustrious insight for another 30. So if you want to maximize or speed run to quality 5 of one recipe, then you want to max out the end node. The alternative way is to max out the middle node. This is also 40 points. This is going to leave me with a lot less points for each of these end recipes, but it also means that I unlock all 4 of these recipes. So this can be a play if lower quality items actually sell through crafting orders. This is going to make it much easier for you to level up because you can focus on 4 different recipes. So I'm not sure which is going to be best. It's going to be either one of these 2 approaches. As for which recipe is best, I'd focus on recipe types that also have embellished items or also have elemental or bestial items. But then we have to figure out like what the best is going to be. So if it turns out that, say, the leather embellished armor is really, really good, then maybe you want to do leather bracers or leather helmets or leather gloves. One of those first, because those are the ones used in the set there. Another thing to note is that the intermediate materials, just as with blacksmithing, it's impossible to get to quality 3 consistently. 375 skill, literally you can't get there, even with every bonus. So you're only going to get quality 3 materials when you get inspiration. So if you want to do this, then you want to max out your inspiration. You can probably get away with using lower quality materials eventually, because you'll only get these when inspiration procs. So 13% of the time right now. You can increase this with professional accessories. So for if you want to have an alt to craft quality 3 materials, then you want to max out leatherworking discipline, all inspiring works to get the maximum inspiration, and then maybe put points in curing and tanning after that for the inspiration bonuses. You don't really care about anything else here, just the inspiration. Literally the skill almost doesn't matter. Then a final note is, where do these recipes come from? All of the basic armor, leather armor, and mail armor comes from the final nodes of the specialization trees. So once you unlock this node, you get the relevant recipe. Then the other recipes that really matter are the elemental and the decayed and the bestial ones. You have some recipes that come from renown, and then there's some that come from the specializations themselves. And then you have the recipes that come from the auction house, or rather they come from sources like raids, like PvP, and decayed creatures. All these can be purchased on the auction house. The bestial ones, the PvP ones, come from PvP, elemental ones come from the raid, and the decayed ones come from the decayed creatures. In Brackenhide Hollow. They can also be purchased and sold on the auction house, so I'm assuming we're going to see some farming groups for these decayed creatures early on, and you'll want to keep a lookout. I'm going to show you right now all of the recipes that are tradable on the auction house. It's going to be 4 for each type. Obviously, you can get these even without putting any points into the specialization and craft them at quality 1, which can potentially be pretty good. You can even craft them at quality 1 with an infusion, and you'll still get the quality 1 item regardless of your profession skill. So that can be an interesting way to diversify the amount of stuff you have available for sale. And as I said before, some of these effects look really strong, but we can assume that only the best ones are going to be the ones that really sell. So yeah, that's leatherworking. For me, I'm leaning towards one of I don't know which specialization is best, to be honest. I like bestial because you get a weapon, but there's a lot of PvP recipes here, and renown PvP could be really strong. This effect does seem pretty good, but I'm not sure what other embellishments you potentially have for PvP purposes. So it's a little bit too early to tell, but the equip effect, where it increases to max item level in PvP, is also obviously very, very nice for PvPers, because they don't need to have this at a high quality. So maybe that's a reason to not put your points into bestial, because the quality doesn't really matter for them in PvP. Elemental looks good, but it's a set bonus, so you need 2 of these pieces, which could be good or it could be bad, depending on how strong the set bonus is. Decayed also looks interesting, but once again, it's a pure tuning issue. Pretty much, is one of these items just clear best, or is it going to be that one of the basic embellishments is the best one? So we'll have to pick whatever turns out to be the best one is what you should focus on, which we'll just have to pay attention to PvE guides essentially as the expansion approaches. Either way, I think leatherworking is looking pretty strong. Although it will take a long time to unlock all of the recipes, you'll have to focus on one armor type only, so you can either do leather or mail. You will not be able to do both at a high quality for a very long time. Yeah, leather is usually better because there's way more leather classes, but we do have evokers. I think they wear mail, which might lead to a huge bump in this category, but we'll just have to see. Either way, I think you're going to be making a good chunk of gold with some of the recipes here, and I'm pretty excited.